Chair Regima, we are live.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Committee of the Whole meeting of December 9th, 2020 to order. My name is Councillor Diane Renchima, Chair of the Community Services and Infrastructure Committee. We are meeting electronically through Zoom this declared emergency period. Members of the public may observe the proceedings by accessing the live webcast on our YouTube channel. I will ask our town clerk to complete the roll call of council so that we can confirm quorum.
Thank you. Mayor Easton,
Present.
Chair Regima,
Present.
Councillor Russell.
Here.
Councillor Brunet,
Here.
Councillor McPherson,
Here.
Councillor Miklick,
Here.
Councillor Timmers,
Here.
Councillor Reimer,
Here.
and Councillor Pachariva will be joining us momentarily. We have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. In addition, I want to take a moment to welcome the staff we have joining us here today electronically. Chief Administrative Officer Mike Kirkopoulos, Finance Treasurer Terry Terwala, Associate Director of Planning and Development Matt Bruder, Manager of Municipal Law Enforcement Mike Barkway. Welcome, Mike. Director of Community Services Shannon McKay, Fire Chief Greg Hudson, Director of Economic Development Communication Paul Deaney, Director of Public Works Dave Graham, CEO of the Lincoln Public Library Julie Andrews, Legislative Committee and Coordinator Aaron Plant, and moderating and clerking the meeting today we have our Town Clerk Julie Kirkelos. IT staff are in attendance, and others joining this evening are Niagara SPCA Officer Caitlin Whitley and our registered delegation Stephanie Day. As this is a virtual meeting, I will ask that we follow some procedures during this electronic meeting. Should there be a connection or service disruption for the chair, or if quorum is lost, the chair and/or clerk will call a 10-minute recess to reconnect and to regain quorum. If quorum is lost, the meeting will be adjourned. If connection is lost from the chair, the clerk will ask those in attendance to wait up to 10 minutes to provide the chair time to reconnect and resume the meeting. Otherwise, after that time frame, the vice chair will resume the meeting until the chair has reconnected and resumes his or her role. Each member of council who wishes to speak, please raise the hand feature on your video call, and the clerk will track our speakers list today and then invite you to speak when I open it up for comments or questions. Also, when I finish reading a motion and announcing the mover, the clerk will then call out the vote by reading each council member's name out loud. Please remember to take yourselves off mute during the portion of the meeting so that you can confirm if you support or oppose. Also, when not speaking, please remember to put yourself on mute. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, do any members have any amendments to the order of the agenda? Okay, I don't see any. So number 5 on the agenda is statutory public meetings. We have one public hearing this evening for the purposes of an appeal to a muzzle order under Town of Lincoln Animal Care and Control Bylaw 2019-18, and that appellant is Stephanie Day of 4453 David Lane, Beamsville. All present are advised that this evening's hearing is being convened pursuant to the provisions of the Province of Ontario's Municipal Act in relation to a muzzle order issued. Section 105(1) of the Municipal Act provides that if a municipality requires the muzzling of a dog under any circumstances, the council of the municipality shall, upon the request of the owner of the dog, hold a hearing to determine whether or not to exempt the owner in whole or in part from the requirement to muzzle the dog. Section 105(2) provides that any exemption may be granted subject to such conditions as council considers appropriate. Notice of the hearing was provided in accordance with the Statutory Powers and Procedures Act. After hearing the evidence and submissions of any applicant, after hearing the evidence and submissions of the applicant, council may either, number 1, dismiss the request for an exemption, number 2, grant the request for an exemption, or number 3, grant the request subject to such conditions as council considers appropriate. To assist in this decision, council may direct staff to prepare an information and recommendation report responsive to the request and any representations made by the applicant this evening for consideration at its next available meeting. Stephanie, your written appeal package has been circulated to members of council in its entirety and has been included in the agenda for this evening.
Thank you.
At this time, we will hear from the applicant to make representations to members of council regarding your request for an exemption. Stephanie, please be reminded that you have 5 minutes to speak, and please go ahead.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you everybody for your time today. My name is Stephanie, and this is Dozer here with me. He's the subject of the appeal today. Dozer just turned a year old, and I've had him for about 4 months now. So he was adopted from a prior family who was in care of him at the time of the incident. Sorry, now that he's gone. So the family that had him prior lived in a busy complex, townhouse complex. They had young kids, very busy area. He was very anxious. And I still have not been told the full circumstances of the incident itself. I was advised it involved a neighbor who he hadn't seen in a while and approached him at a weird side. My understanding is they all had a shared common area they'd hang out outside. So since having Dozer, he's changed completely. He's no longer anxious. He's definitely a big cuddle bug. He's not aggressive in any way. Personally, I attribute the incident to be more of a product of the environment. I feel the family that the family that was caring for him, I apologize, certainly became fearful of him after the incident, and instead of doing some training, decided to, first of all, try to find a new home for him. There was also some, he was forced to wear like a spike collar on a short leash, different things that I feel their actions kind of contributed towards the incident. So now that he's got a regular collar, full exercise, I mean, he's only a year old, so he's definitely got lots of energy. He needs a lot of attention, and I'm single here, so it's just me, my cat, and Dozer. And now that somebody has the time to focus on him fully and keep him active, he's doing wonderful. Other than the barks. Yes, thank you, buddy. Yeah, so he's come a long way. I have neighbors, I have family, I have friends who can all say the same. If submissions are needed, I was told today was just an initial proceeding, but if submissions are needed, I do have some things that I can submit for that as well for anybody who's interested. Yeah, so I think, you know, with his age especially and what the circumstances were, I mean, he's only just turned a year. November 7th was his birthday. So he's about 13 months right now. So for me, with this order the incident being such a young age, this order for a lifetime, I don't think is fair to him. And seeing the change in him already with just a little private training, like this is all training I've done myself. And if needed, we can go and actually hire professional training as well. But he's done wonderful with what we've done in such a short amount of time.
Okay.
I'm not sure where we're at for time, but
Are you done? Yeah, so that's good. You're well within your 5 minutes, so appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
And thanks for sharing all that with us.
Yes.
What we'll do is open it up to members of committee, see if they have any questions for you, Stephanie, okay?
Okay.
Are there any questions for Stephanie from committee members? And you are right, Stephanie, what will happen tonight, as you heard, is that council may ask for a report. There's a number of options that could happen. Okay, so Julie, whose hand was up first?
So we have Councillor Russell to speak first.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Russell. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the question isn't to Stephanie directly, it's probably more to staff. Again, just wondering, again, a little bit further on the procedure that might be available. I understand, again, the options that we have, but do we have the ability to, I'm assuming Ms. Whitley, I can't see her full name there, but Ms. Whitley is here to answer questions on behalf of, I think the SPCA, is that correct?
Yes, sorry, I was muted still.
So, Madam Chair or Madam Clerk, would this be the time to have a question for Ms. Whitley, or would that be after the delegation?
Go ahead, Julie.
Through the chair to the counselor. So tonight is how we typically hold other statutory meetings. And so tonight we'll hear from the applicant, which is Ms. Day, and hear her side of things. And if there's any clarifying questions that council has, by all means, ask that. It's not in a matter of debate at all. And what will happen tonight is staff will be going back, taking this deputation into consideration for a recommendation report. Mike Barkway, the manager of bylaw enforcement, will be working with the SPCA as well as the applicant and the other party to make a fulsome report that'll come back to council.
Okay,
But
thank you,
if
Madam
you've
Clerk.
got clarifying questions that you want to ask Ms. Day, I mean, you can do that. It's just not a matter of getting into a question and answer.
No, I know, but can I ask Miss Whitley or do I have to ask Miss Day? Was my
I'm going to say, yes, you can ask clarification questions of Ms. Whitley. Councillor, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Miss Whitley, again, this is the first time it's come in front of myself on a council. I know it's been there's been a couple historical situations where a situation like this has come forward, but again, from your professional standpoint, again, I'm assuming you've probably never met the dog or the applicant. Is there a way to determine whether or not the dog from a professional standpoint would still be a risk, or is there any procedures from your standpoint that might be able to facilitate this one way or another?
I mean, we can definitely talk to my management as far as reassessing the dog. At this point in time, I mean, I do feel like the muzzle order was issued precautionary. So if we organize something, like we don't have like a go-to per se as to being able to reassess like as per your guys' request, but we could potentially organize something for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Does that clarify? Thank you. Next on the list, I have Councillor Brunet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to Stephanie. Stephanie, thank you for coming before us tonight. Certainly appreciate where you're coming from. With a young dog, he's got a long life ahead of him. You want to give him the best life possible. I read your letter. I'm just curious, when you adopted the dog, you received his paperwork, telling you he was a mixed breed and everything.
Yes.
You thinking he was more Shepherd than Rottweiler, and I read all that.
Yeah.
At that time, did the previous owners tell you the dog had a muzzle order?
Not necessarily. So it was partly on me. I definitely should have done some more homework. I was advised that there was a bite incident in the townhouse complex that they lived in. And after that, their neighbors were giving them a hard time about them keeping the dog there. There are a lot of children around, things like that. So I was aware that there was an incident and that there was a quarantine period and he had a muzzle on when I met him. But I wasn't advised that it was a permanent order or that he was now labeled a dangerous dog, of course, because of that. So that was a little surprising to me. But again, that onus is also on me for not thinking more of that at the time.
Okay, so the dog did have a muzzle on it when you were there.
Yes.
You knew there was an incident, but you didn't know there was a specific muzzle order.
Yeah,
So
no.
in the last 4 months, you say you've owned the dog now a year. If the dog just turned a year,
yeah.
You've owned it for 4 months. What has transpired in that 4 months that has brought you to us today?
Huge change.
Sorry?
Yeah, sorry. There's been a huge change in him. So I've just it's been private training. So just myself, I've had an online course I've registered for. I've gone through and I've done this with him, and just seeing the change in him within the first couple of weeks, the anxiety was gone. People coming by, he doesn't freak out when there's new people around. So you can see that these are things that were environmental or things that he learned from his previous experiences, and not his nature as an animal. Like, he's not a naturally aggressive dog. Like, my family were big believers that there's no such thing as a dangerous dog, there's such thing as a poor dog. And I really think the family who had him, they had kids, they both work, they're young, and they just had a lot going on, and he just needs that attention all the time. So with that, I mean, being able to take him out, you know, obviously without the muzzle, he brights up. He's such a change in when he's out there with the muzzle and when he's inside with it off and being free. And just, you know, like you said, life expectancy too, he is young. So for him to be under those restrictions for life is, you know, definitely not the most enjoyable. But I hope that
Okay, I was just trying to understand the circumstances as to whether, you know, since you've owned the dog, you know, you've received someone at your door from Animal Care Control, or if there's been an issue that has brought more to your attention. It sounds like you're just being proactive. You're wanting to give the dog the best quality of life, and you feel the training and the environment he's in now is owed to the dog, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I received a copy of the appeal when they dropped him off, when I picked him up. So that was the only notification I have. I haven't had any contact with anybody else. So definitely I just reached out regarding the appeal process. Nothing else has caused that to occur.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Counselor, thank you for your questions. Next on the list, I believe, was Counselor Timmers. Correct me if I'm wrong,
It is.
Julie. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Regima. Through you to Stephanie. Thank you for coming tonight. Stephanie, I did read the report very, very thoroughly. I believe that, you know, the dog was a puppy at the time. So it just seems like a very strict order on such a young dog for his entire life. You know, it can actually cause a dog to feel more anxious. I have a question for Caitlin. Caitlin, so once a dog is declared a dangerous animal, after one bite, that happens from what I understand, and then the dog must wear a muzzle for the rest of his life. They must post signs that they have a dangerous animal, and he must wear it anytime he goes outside, even in his own backyard. Is that correct?
No, when the dog is outside, if the owner has a fenced in area that is to the proper height for the dog breed, then they, as long as they're confined, like they have to be contained, like under control of the owner at all times. So as long as it's in a fenced in area on their own property, that is allowed, or if it's tethered on its own property, that's allowed, but it's when it's on a short leash and off the property is when the dog has to be muzzled.
Okay, thank you. That's good. Thank you for the clarification, because I understood it was the backyard as well.
I had the same understanding.
Yeah, and Caitlin, is there anything in the process? You talked about reassessing the dog. Is that a normal occurrence to perhaps reassess the dog after, you know, a period of time?
Not typically, no. That's why when I explained it earlier, I said I would have to go through my management and we could potentially organize something along those lines, but not typically. We don't reassess after a muzzle order is issued.
So considering the age of the dog, he's only 6 months old. That's a puppy. That's not an adult dog. I really think a reassessment would definitely be very beneficial to any dog that finds himself in this situation. So thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Chair. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Councillor Timmers. And next on the list is Councillor Mikulik, I believe. Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair Rengiema. Through you to Ms. Day. I appreciate your story. I did read your story. I found it interesting. I too am a dog owner, so I can understand. Question I have for you is, how many dogs have you personally owned prior to owning this one?
On my own, he is my first dog. I have had a lot through the family. So we've had usually more small to medium sized dogs. So he's my first large dog. But we have had some family pets since I was little, and dogs there.
Okay, so this is your first dog that you've been responsible for from a taking care of perspective, as well as a liability perspective as well.
Yes, in that sense.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mikulik. Councillor Pachariva is next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Stephanie, for coming tonight, and thank you for your a very heartfelt letter. We're dog owners. We have two, and one is a rescue. And you know, it was an issue similar to yours when we got him, and we had counsel that night. My wife came home with this dog and a big bag of dog food, and we found out a few weeks later that the reason that the owners got rid of him is because he had gum disease, and if we didn't get 95% of his teeth out, he was going to die. So you're you know, and I'm a disciple of Cesar Millan, and I watch him faithfully. And you know, his thing is there's not bad dogs, there's bad owners.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's the case that you have here. And you've rehabilitated the dog. And I was just looking at my notes, and he's a year old now. So he was a puppy. And I know in our instances, you know, where we'll be walking the dogs, and kids like to get up close, and they get in that dog's personal space. Well, the dog, like people, they don't like that. So, you know, sometimes they will snap. So it's understandable. But, you know, I'd very much look forward to the reassessment and to the staff report, because, you know, I think you've got a typical case here of a dog that was mistreated, and you've done everything you can to rehabilitate it. And I commend you for that.
Thank
And I
you.
commend you for coming forward tonight and saying, you know what, he shouldn't be given this sentence because it wasn't his fault. So.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
No, and puppies, you know, until they're fixed, are rambunctious as well. So,
Yeah.
you know,
And he
you've
has
done.
been fixed now too.
Yeah,
just
I read that. So I mean, that's
yeah.
you're doing everything the right way. And you know, as a dog owner myself, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your courage coming forward. So, look forward to the report and a reassessment to see, in fact, where we stand. So, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Councillor Pachariva. And Councillor McPherson, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to add to what we've heard from Council, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Caitlin, for coming out tonight. This is always really an awkward decision for Council. I mean, we obviously don't know the dog, and it gets down to what information we can gather, I believe. And that being the case, I would hope that in the report, we're going to have information that basically explains to us why the dog was muzzled in the first place and how that all occurred. And also, I think it's important that we have information from your neighbors or your, you know, others that know the dog and can, you know, give us their position on the dog today to allow us to make an informed decision. So that would be my comment. Is I absolutely agree that we had a very young dog that, by the sounds of it, was muzzled very early in its life, and we certainly don't want to make a mistake of having that dog go through its entire life, 10, 12, 14 years, whatever it might be, muzzled, if it doesn't need to be. So those would be my comments. Look forward to the report coming back and all of the information that we can gather to make an informed decision. So thanks again for coming tonight.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McPherson. Councillor McCulloch, your hand is up. Would you like to speak again?
Thank you, Chair Diane, or thank you, Chairman Gemma. Yeah, thank you for giving me a second chance. It's just, I want to clarify something that I heard earlier from Ms. Whitley with regards to the dog and it's being tethered in the backyard and whether a muzzle is required when the dog is in the backyard. I'm reading Ms. Day's letter. And as per section 4.12, she noted in our bylaw that every owner of a dangerous dog shall at all times, while the dangerous dog is not in the owner's dwelling unit, but is otherwise within the boundaries of the owner's premises, ensure that the dangerous dog wears a muzzle in accordance with section 4.10 of this bylaw and ensure that, and then it goes on. Can I get clear? Do different municipalities have different bylaws with respect to muzzling?
Yes, they vary very much so between all the municipalities that we cover. Sorry, I'm just reading over the muzzle order here.
So Councillor McCulloch, you're looking to see if there's something in our bylaw that's or something in the muzzle order. What is it exactly that you're trying to I think that might help Miss Whitley a little bit in what she's trying to find in the muzzle order.
Well, earlier she stated that a dog within the town of Lincoln doesn't have to wear a muzzle in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
As long as the dog is tethered or, you know, chained up or tied down. And I'm reading that differently, that in our case, the dog is to be muzzled.
Okay, so you're looking for clarification on that question that was asked earlier on. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
If you know what, I think I saw Mr. Barkway's hand go up. Can we go to Mr. Barkway and give Caitlin a second to look through the information?
Thank you.
Councillor Mikulik, is that okay?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Barkway.
Thank you, Councillor. I just wanted to clarify, I'm looking at the order that was actually issued, and it does specify in section 1 that every owner of a dangerous dog shall at all times, while the dangerous dog is not in the owner's dwelling unit, but is otherwise within the boundaries of the owner's premise, ensure that the dangerous dog wears a muzzle in accordance with section 4.10 of this bylaw and ensures that the dog is contained within an area enclosed by a fence of an appropriate height for the breed of the dog, or an area enclosed by other means such that the dog cannot come in contact with any other person or animal. So I think even within that section, it's specifying that the dog still has to be muzzled.
As long as if it's not in the unit.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, I just found that in the bylaw as well. My apologies. Like I said, they vary from municipality to municipality. So yeah, the Lincoln bylaw, like was just stated.
Okay, thank you.
I misread that. My apologies.
No, not a problem. Councillor McCulloch, does that answer your question?
Well, I think it's important to know that because, you know, I'm sure many of us that have had dogs or have dogs, sometimes they get out. And I just, you know, wanted clarification on that, you know, as far as any possible liability issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Timmers, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair Regima. Just a couple of comments. You know, it seems this bylaw is very black and white. You know, a dog has a bite and then he's got a life sentence. And I feel like there needs to be some additional things added to this, like so that the dog does have another chance. You know, it's not just one strike, you're out till the end of your life wearing a muzzle and being a dangerous animal. Because I think every situation needs to be looked at very carefully. What were the factors? What was the cause? You know, how old was the dog? What was his living conditions? You know, I've been born and raised with dogs my entire life. Multiple dogs on the farm. We had 4 or 5 dogs at a time, large dogs. So, I mean, I've seen a lot of dogs, and I think it's just really sad that a puppy gets a life sentence. So I think we need to rework this bylaw and maybe add some things, like perhaps a reassessment would be a regular occurrence. Perhaps some dog training could happen as part of a condition to have the muzzle, you know, removed. I don't know, I'm just putting some ideas out there, but it just seems very black and white. And I think the dogs, you know, do deserve a second chance and a second look at why this happened. So it's always, and as Councillor Pachariva said, you know, I believe that too. There's no bad dogs, there's bad owners. And I believe that. And anyway, those are just some comments I wanted to put out there. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. It sounds like Miss Whitley is well, I think she's saying that there hasn't typically been a situation or a mechanism for reviewing the order, but it sounds like she's open to looking into it, so that's a good thing. And this report, I think that's going to come back to us. We'll have further information that'll help us make decisions on this, but a lot of good questions for sure today. I don't see any more hands up. So I'm going to move on in the agenda. At this time,
Councillor Timmers
Okay.
has her hand up. Chair Rajima?
oh, sorry, Councillor Timmers. Is your hand still
Sorry.
up from before?
No, I just wanted to add something. Sorry, Chair Ojima.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just see, you know, in our agenda here, and we have 3 options here: to dismiss, grant the request, or grant the request subject to such conditions as council considers appropriate. I'm just wondering what we're doing with this. Are we going to pass a motion with how we're moving forward?
Direct that staff bring a report back. And you're right. I see that when I read the script earlier on, I did point out 3 different options. So that's a question I have as well. I know that there's probably a process that we need to follow. So my question is, are there people that need to be notified of this hearing today? Were they notified? And if so, is there more notification required after this hearing that we've heard today? Or is there an option for council to make a decision based on what they've heard today? I just want to make sure that council understands their options clearly. I guess that question is through to the clerk.
Thanks, Chair Rajima. So what I did was I gave you the options of how a decision is made. And what's happening now is that we received an appeal from the applicant, and that is what this hearing is about today. What's going to happen next is outlined for council, in that staff will go back and meet with all the parties. At such time, there will be notification done to the applicant as well as the other party that was involved, as well as consult with the SPCA, and staff will bring back a recommendation forward on what they feel is best, and council can make the decision at that time. So all of this information will be included in the report. Council is not making a decision at this time. It's typically how we hear all the other statutory hearings that come forward to council.
Okay, thank you, Julie. That helps a lot. I think that we've heard from a number of people tonight that more information would be appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
So Councillor Timmers, does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. As there are no more speakers or other information for consideration to this item, I now declare this public hearing to address appeal of a muzzle order closed. There being no further discussion, I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva that the appeal by Stephanie Day regarding an order served on or about July 7th, 2020 under the Town of Lincoln Bylaw 2019-18 to muzzle 2019-18 to muzzle a mixed breed dog be received, and that staff be directed to prepare a report regarding the appeal and the submission be made by Stephanie Day at the hearing. Okay, let me read that again. And that staff be directed to prepare a report regarding the appeal and the submission made by Stephanie Day at the hearing held on this date, December 9th, 2020, and that the report be returned to the Committee of the Whole meeting in January 2021 for consideration and a decision in accordance with Council's normal procedures. So can I ask, Madam Clerk, what date we're expecting that Committee of the Whole meeting to be, or do we know?
Well, that's next on the agenda.
Right, you are. So we'll be looking at next year's schedule of meetings. So, all right. So I've read the motion,
So I'll
and
call the vote.
Julie, go ahead, please. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Brunet,
Yes.
thank you. Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Miklick,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
So moving on to the next portion of the agenda, we have no delegations this evening for the Community Services and Infrastructure agenda. So item 6.2 is the consent agenda. We are now considering, and that's item 6.2. Would any member like to remove, so the item that's under the consent agenda is the Active Transportation Citizen Advisory Committee minutes from September 17th, 2020. Would any member like to remove this item from the consent agenda? Madam Mayor, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Chairman Chima, the question that I have is related to, it's a general question, and it can be simply answered by determining whether or not the council, when it formed committees, the subcommittees, the ABC committees that come under the town's jurisdiction, whether or not we contemplated increasing the budgets of the committees, and also where the committee entertains engaging in activities which are already provided by the town, how the approvals of those items will take place.
Is that question through to the clerk, Madam Mayor?
I believe so, because I think we're talking about the terms of reference, not just the Active Transportation Citizen Advisory Committee, but all advisory committees.
So I think, Madam Chair, is your question that when we move on to other committees, will there be a mechanism in place for us to look at the budget, or whether or not that committee has a budget, and also look at the processes that are that the committee follows under its terms of reference? Is that your question?
Yes, I'd like to know what's contemplated under the terms of reference when it comes to activities that require operating money.
And that's for this committee in particular, Active Transportation?
It's for all of them. I'm trying to be very general because I don't want to be seen as picking on anybody, but it's clear that active committees will be looking for additional support. So at least it appears that way here.
Okay, Julie, do you have an answer for Mayor Easton?
Well, this right now is to approve the active transportation minutes right now, but I can quickly address the mayor's questioning. So for specifically Citizen Advisory Committee's budgets, that is brought through to the operating budget, and those will be addressed then. I'm not aware of any increase in each of the operating budgets at this time. However, they have been sufficiently addressed last year, but I'm not aware of any further asks to increase the operating budget for any Citizen Advisory Committee at this time. When they do look at their work plan, each Citizen Advisory is currently looking at their work plan for the current year, as well as reviewing the next year work plan. And so they'll determine what those budgetary requirements will be. But I'm not aware of any increase ask at this time.
Okay, and Madam Chair, through you then to the clerk, Can we be satisfied that any requests on the work plan will come forward in advance of the approval of the budgets?
So through the mayor, through the chair to the mayor. So each committee works within its own budget on what it's been allocated to be. And they'll determine how best to spend those monies that have been allocated to them specifically. And it could be through subcommittees, it could be through advertising material, it could be through attending professional development, it could have speakers, it could be a number of things or events throughout the community. So those citizen advisories are allocated a specific budget and they spend accordingly within that budget.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Madam Mayor. I know we have Councillor Russell is the chair of the budget committee meeting. We do have operating discussions coming up, so maybe we can flag this to be aware of your concerns and your questions and address it at one of those upcoming meetings.
All right, Madam Chair, I just want to be very clear. I don't have concerns. I just don't recall the approval of specific budgets. But that's just a matter of my recollection. So that was I didn't want to see this go forward if there was something about the process that I misunderstood. So that is the motivation behind my question. Thank you very much. If it goes to the operating budget, that would be fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, and Mr. Kokopoulos, your hand is up. Do you want to speak?
Through you, Madam Chair, I do actually. And just to provide a little bit of clarification, oftentimes when we come forward with terms of reference, we do appropriate and append certain budgets to certain committees, either based on just working knowledge of staff with those committees or a rough idea. I would also suggest a lot of our committees are tied to certain departments, and where and if possible, we work within those departmental budgets to support what is often small asks within each of those particular committees. So I don't think it's a separate line item within an operating budget. I don't want to mislead members of council to think this is an operating budget discussion, but rather a discussion that departments will continue to support the relative committees like we have for the last number of years. So just providing a little bit of clarification, we do set budgets that do go along with these various committees based on best guesstimates. They're usually in the $2,000 to $5,000 range. But again, should we need additional supports, I think there's opportunities for those from the respective departments that work with these committees. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So just to clarify, if the mayor has further questions on this, would operating budget time be the correct and the appropriate time to bring these questions up? Or if anybody else here tonight has questions arising from what we've just discussed?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think to all members of council, should you have any questions, I would suggest with respect to any of the committees and other appropriate budgets, feel free to email myself or the departmental representatives on those committees, and I think we can take that back. Again, not saying that it's not a budget discussion, but I think when you're talking about the amounts we're talking about, most of them are already worked into the terms of reference, but should there be any additional requests, I think we can deal with those and make sure that they're prepared prior to having a budget, a specific budget presentation.
Madam Clerk, could I just confirm that that is the answer that is most useful in this case, that it's tied to the departmental budget, who are all, and those departments are already committed to support the advisory committee. That's a sufficient answer for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this item was not lifted, so I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell to pass item 6.2 on the consent agenda. I will now ask our clerk to call out the vote.
Thanks, Chair Rajima. Councillor Brunet?
Yes.
Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Councillor Miklick?
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva?
Yes.
Councillor Reimer?
Yes.
Councillor Rajima?
Yes.
Councillor Russell?
Yes.
Councillor Timmers?
Yes.
Mayor Easton?
Support.
That carries.
Thank you. So we have now concluded the Community Service and Infrastructure Committee agenda. We will now rotate to allow Councillor Deputy Mayor and Chair Mike Mikulik to assume the chair at this time. for the General Business and Finance Committee agenda.
Thank you very much, Chair Diane Renchema. So welcome everyone to the General Business and Finance portion of this meeting. 7.1 delegations. We have no delegations this evening for the General Business and Finance Committee agenda. 7.2 report. 08-20 calendar of meetings for 2021. Do members of council have any questions or comments? Okay.
We have Councillor McPherson.
Oh, okay. Councillor McPherson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just have a question. I don't know if this is the appropriate time. I have questions about the specific dates on the calendar. Is this the right time to ask that? Okay.
I think it would be appropriate.
Getting a nod from
that's what we're talking about. So
very good.
Questions for the town clerk, perhaps?
Yes. So I have a few of them. So I see on the calendar that we have no council meeting on February 22nd, and I believe that this is also the Good Roads Association conference, and I'm not aware of us not holding a council meeting as a result of this conference in the past. Is that why we're not seeing a council meeting on the 22nd of February? Maybe something for Julie to take back.
Yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts, Ms. Kirklos? Do we have any councilors registered for that conference?
I'm not aware of it at this time, but I will address the question just in general. So when I notice that these conferences are happening, I've made a point to, as it has been requested of me in the past, to kind of leave those dates available should council wish to attend those types of conferences. But I'm not particularly aware of anybody registering for this one.
Yeah, I would say, Mr. Chair, that that would be the case for AMO, that we would definitely, since most or all of us have attended AMO, that it made good sense to not hold meetings during that time period, but for the other conferences that you've got on the calendar, one in January, one in February. Historically, we have had maybe one person attend those two conferences. So I guess my question to keep a consistent, every 3 weeks for a council of the whole meeting and the council meeting the week after, I would question that one throwing us out of sync. The other month that I looked at was July, and it looks like we're trying to do an awful lot in July to free up August. And I wonder if it doesn't make more sense for us to keep the regular rotation for committee of the whole meetings in July, and that would then put a council ratification meeting on Tuesday, August 3rd, which is obviously the third day of August, but it does still free up all of August for our break, but also doesn't throw a lot of meetings into the summer month of July, and spreads it out a little bit and keeps that consistent every 3 weeks, and then the week after is council. So maybe to look at that. And Mr. Chair, I just have one more suggestion, if you would indulge me. And that is,
yeah, you got 3.
Thank you very much. And that is to put the budget meetings on the calendar, that we would have placeholders at the very least for budget come November. Well, I guess really September, October, November, December, to put those on our yearly calendar. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now, I did see our CAO's hand as well as Mr. Deaney's hand rise during your questions and the answers that Ms. Kirklos provided. We'll start with Mr. Kirkopoulos. Do you have any further comments to the council?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I do, but let me tackle maybe kind of Roma Ogra, because the councillor first raised those, and I'll turn to Mr. Deaney, as I know he's working with Ms. Chambers to canvass members of council for those particular conferences, because we are making requests and have made significant requests to attend those conferences, similar to what we did with AMO. And in the virtual sense, it will be likely an opportunity for a lot more members of council to participate. I think Councillor McPherson will recall last year we went to see Minister Mulrooney, and I forget if it was in February or January, which of the two it was, but we did make a delegation to speak with the minister and to talk about GO collectively, and a few other asks. And so I think in a virtual state, 2021 will be very different. There will be more engagement with government relations, advocacy, advocating for programs, supports for the applications that we've got forward will become even more important. And so I think that's why our clerk, in conversations with Mr. Deaney, did include those in the calendar. But I think the councillor's comments are noted. I can also, provide at the appropriate time, members of council, just a little bit of an update in terms of what we discussed at the CAO's meeting today, and what's being announced in terms of the vast number of dates, rollouts, and coordination of staff that will be required as we look at vaccine sites in the rural municipalities will play. But I'll let Mr. Deaney chime in as well first.
Go ahead, Mr. Deaney.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the councillor, and the CEO was exactly correct. Given that Roma this year is a virtual conference, we have submitted a number of delegation requests to meet with ministers at Roma. In the past, we've talked about the biggest bang for our buck being the AMO conference in Ottawa, which tends to be in Ottawa in the summertime. However, being a virtual one, as the CEO just indicated, the importance of government relations in 2021, especially given the pandemic and the need to advocate for our projects, we did submit a number of delegation requests. So in conversations with the clerk and Ms. Chambers, we actually are going to be canvassing council's availability tomorrow for the Roma conference.
Mr. Chair, and that's great. I believe the conflict that I'm pointing out, though, is with the Ontario Good Roads Association conference at the end of February. I think the Roma conference is at the end of January. So
Mr. Chair, if I could,
that's why I flagged this one. Was I didn't see us, spending all of the council time at the Ontario Good Roads Association. Maybe Roma, but not this particular one. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Through you, or to our CAO, or to Mr. Deaney, do we have any interest in attending that Good Roads conference? Has there been any? Have we attended in the past?
So through you, Mr. Chair, why don't I start, and then Mr. Deaney can chime in. Roma Ogra, where it used to be one conference, they used to be at the same time about 2 years ago. Those were separated. So some municipalities do both, some do one. I don't think Mr. Deaney and I have chatted extensively on, is there a benefit to either joint delegations or individual municipal delegations on one or both of those? I would suggest it may be at both of those, depending on what the request is and what the applications are that we have in front of government. But I think duly noted, Councillor McPherson's, comment around, do we need to go to both? And do we need to change our council meeting? I think, where we can, we try to be anticipatory about what may be possible challenges with scheduling. But again, as I said, I think, duly noted, and we could potentially look at that.
Very good. Okay. Is that good, Councillor McPherson? Perfect. Okay. Ms. Kirklos, who do we have next?
Councillor Russell.
Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. I know in talking to staff that it is likely that our operating budget discussions or next meeting is going to move into January. Is that still correct to our CAO?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. We look to be coming back I'm about to send council an email with just some background information on the operating budget to prepare for our first meeting in January. But we look to be back in January and then hopefully to have it wrapped up in January as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Seo. Follow up to that, Councillor Mr. Chair. I assume that it's likely that that operating budget will consist of one meeting. As a cursory point, I'd like to make a motion to see if myself and Councillor Pachariva, as chair and vice chair, can stay on for continuity purposes and finish off this cycle of budget. I know that at our next meeting, we're going to be doing the chair discussion for the next half term. And we definitely would invite the new incoming chair and vice chair to be part of the discussions for that final meeting. But we would like to stay on as chair and vice chair to complete this cycle of budget. So I'd like to put that motion on the floor, Madam Chair or Madam Clerk.
Ooh, okay, so now Councillor Russell's putting a motion. He's just put out a motion on the floor. Are we now going to, through to the clerk, are we now going to entertain questions to that motion or have a discussion? Okay, so have you kept track of the speaking order for, with regards to what we were talking about previously?
So what I have next is Councillor Rajima and Mayor Easton to speak next. But
Okay.
With a motion on the floor right now, if they'd
So
like, if they would like to speak to that motion now, we can take that and then move down the list.
Okay. Okay, so just for clarification, everyone, we've now got a motion, a new motion on the floor with regards to what Councillor Russell has brought forward. Councillor Rinjema, would you like to speak first?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My hand was up for this item on the agenda, but not to that
Okay.
motion. However, if you're looking for input to the motion, I would support the continuity of the current budget chair and vice chair. And then I'll just
Okay.
put my hand back up and mute myself.
That sounds perfect. Thank you. Mayor Easton?
Mr. Chairman, I put my hand up to speak to another matter. However, if you would allow me to make a comment, if the clerk could let us know what the order of the meetings is specifically. If the budget meeting is going to occur before the chairs are selected, then I would suggest that we can entertain this motion at that time. I think that would be appropriate. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman, through you to the clerk?
At which time? At the time of selection of the committee chairs?
Yeah, the committee chairs. The motion could come forward at that time to entertain a motion of continuity.
I'll pass that on to the clerk. I think that's possible too, but we're here now talking about it now. But I'll
Well, I'm just commenting. I'm just making a comment on it.
what would your thoughts be, Ms. Kirklos?
So the selection of the committee chair and vice chairs for year 2021 to 2022 will be done at December 14th meeting. However, this is the motion on the floor tonight.
That's fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. However, I'll leave my name up to speak to my other matter.
Okay, we'll get back to that one. So do any other members have any comments with respect to Councillor Russell's motion? Okay, I see none. So let's then vote on Councillor Russell's motion with regards to, can you repeat the motion that's on the floor again, Ms. Kirklos?
The motion on the floor is that Chair Russell and Vice Chair Pachariva continue with the Cal budget proceeding, dealing with the 2021 budget. And so that would be a continuation until completion.
Okay. So Councillor Brunet, you've just put your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I thought I had more time. I thought I saw 3 hands, now 4 hands. So I didn't want to get missed, but I guess I waited too long. Sorry. So, you know, really, I mean, I wasn't, obviously didn't come here prepared to vote on this tonight. But certainly the night when we vote for chairs and vice chairs, I certainly have some concerns about some of the current committees and the, you know, the size of the format of the committees and how much structure there is in certain committees and how other committees seem like they're a lot weaker in subject matter. So I did have that concern. So, you know, I wasn't really prepared to talk about this tonight. I mean, I can certainly understand, you know, the 2 councillors that are involved in the chair, they want to see this through to fruition, and it does carry over. But I guess you can look on the flip side that, so as we turn the chairs, and that is our current situation, and we've known that ever since we voted when we came in 2 years ago, you know, that year 3 and year 4, whoever becomes a budget chair in year 3 will have a budget, and whoever comes in year 4 won't have a budget because we'll be lame duck council coming into an election. So I guess there's 2 ways of looking at this, but I wasn't prepared to vote on it tonight, but if it comes to a vote, I will vote accordingly. Thank you.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate those comments. Yeah, the chair and the vice chair in year 4, it will be a lame duck situation. Okay, that being said, there is a motion on the floor and we're going to have to vote on it. Now, I'm going to ask the clerk a question. Should we vote this motion down tonight? Is there a possibility of bringing forward this motion in a different wording or a different way come December 14th, where members can reconsider their thoughts and be more prepared for a discussion?
Through to the chair. So I'm bringing a report forward on the 14th, specifically related to the selection for chair and vice chair, and the description of the committees will be encompassed within that report. So should this get voted down tonight, we can bring forward either an amendment to what that looks like on the 14th, or Councillor Russell can bring forward a notice of motion at that time. And that would be at council, not at committee necessarily.
Okay. All right. I don't see any further hands up. So let's vote on this motion and see where it goes. Councillor Timmers, you've just shown up to the party. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm just listening to all the comments. So I was reserving my comments, but I decided I will jump in after all. And I think let's just give this some time. We're going to be going over this December 14th. We can have that discussion then. That's my thoughts. There's time. We need to think about it.
Okay. I'm sensing your vote. So let's call the vote.
Okay. Councillor Brunet.
No.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklik.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
No.
Mayor Easton. Mayor Easton, you're on mute.
No.
And that carries.
Okay. Okay, so that carries. Now let's rewind. Let's go back to the calendar. We had Councillor Rinjema first, I believe. Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So regarding the calendar for upcoming meetings and agenda, upcoming meetings in the next year, I really appreciate this. I wanted to say that it really helps to be able to look at a year at a glance. We haven't always had this, but it's great. It's really, really good to have this. So I just wanted to ask on behalf of Stephanie that was here earlier on, she may still be watching. I just want to clarify for her that and confirm this with the clerk, that the first committee of the whole meeting is scheduled for January 11th. And so I'd like to confirm with the clerk that that will be the meeting to which the muzzle order report will be coming.
Okay. Do you, to Ms. Kirklos, do you feel that's sufficient time for staff during the holidays to come up with that report?
Well, we have a couple of weeks yet until we break for Christmas, and then there's the week of the 4th. And so, yeah, we do. But if that isn't sufficient time, then we can notify those parties and let them know that the next meeting would be the 1st of February. It was just a suggestion, Councillor Regina, because at the time we didn't have this schedule prepared, and so I had worked on a draft motion, but the date is flexible.
Okay, and I wanted to clarify because I think the motion did say the first committee of the whole meeting in January. So, I mean, I think it's understandable that over the holidays it may be difficult considering the amount of research and consultation that has to go into that report. Yes. that it may take a little longer. So, thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it, Mr. Chair.
Is it okay? Thank you, Beeston.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the clerk, it's usually this budget or this calendar in the cycle of council where we may be confronted with slowdowns or interruptions to council business related to the 2022 elections. And I just wanted to get an idea from Madam Clerk what whether or not that would be the case. What would she have in mind?
'22 elections.
So
go ahead, Madam.
So I'm just sorry. It's a clarification on my part through the chair to the Mayor Easton. This is the calendar for 2021. Are you seeking more information in terms of 2022?
Yes, because it's not uncommon for us to see near the end of this year, and then moving into all of the year before the election, that there would be interruptions, that there would be slowdowns potentially. And I just want to make sure that I table my reservations about that and to see what your thoughts are. If this isn't an appropriate time to do it, and it's going to come up during the operating budget discussions, I can wait until then.
That would be appreciated. We're talking about the 2021 calendar currently.
Yes, but I'm talking about the 2021 calendar, which near the end of the calendar, Mr. Chairman, may see some adjustments. And those adjustments generally take place are on a continuum all through the last year of council, which is 2022. So I'm asking the question now to set the stage for what we can anticipate going forward.
Close.
Thank you. Through the chair to the mayor. So thanks very much for the clarification. Just to let you know that this calendar is something that is just to give an idea for staff to prepare and for council to have notification in that these are the meetings that you can expect. As you know, we've had to change or amend meetings on an as-needed basis, and so we can always make those amendments when they're required. Right now, most clerks, well, all of Ontario is waiting for more clarification in terms of the Elections Act and some of the amended dates that the province has come out with. And so when those are clarified, we will make amendments at that time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So noted.
Thank you for the question. Okay, I see no other hands up. There being no further discussion, I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson that Council approve the calendar of meetings for 2021 as set out in Appendix A of Report LS-08-20. I will now ask our clerk to call out the vote.
Thanks, Chair McClick. Councillor Brunet.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
I have a question, Madam Clerk. So there were some suggestions made to make some potential changes. Do those need to come in a motion, or is that a suggestion to staff before we approve the schedule as it is?
Well, as I understood, the suggestion was to include a meeting for August 3rd, which I've noted. And also that the week of the 22nd of February, it was noted that the Director of Economic Development and Communications, as well as our CAO, was going to clarify some attendance required for that particular conference. So I don't believe any changes will be made at this time, although there could be amendments made to the calendar. But in principle, I believe we're just looking to put a calendar together for the year of 2021, and if amendments need to be made, they will be made.
Well, and there was a third suggestion to put budget dates into the back half of. So as it stands right now, I'm going to say no. I'm not ready to sign up for this calendar as it sits today.
Okay, so before we move on, Ms. Kerflow, should I read a new motion, or can I read a new motion, or do we have to complete this one?
Nope, we're going to complete this motion.
We're going to complete this. We're going to vote on this motion, and then should I introduce a new motion where we include the dates that were mentioned or highlighted during this discussion?
So just a clarification question for me before I carry on with the motion. Councillor McPherson, are you saying that if the budget dates were in the calendar specifically, not related to February or August, but the budget dates specifically?
What I'm saying is that we have a proposed calendar put in front of us, and we're asked for feedback to the clerk on the proposed calendar. So the feedback is those three items that I suggested we consider. Now, as I hear it, we're making a decision on leaving the calendar as it is presented to us tonight.
Okay, so what we can do is we can make those amendments now, vote on those amendments, and then we can vote on the calendar as a whole with those amendments. Does that sound fine?
That is great.
Okay. So that council approved the calendar of meetings for 2021 as set out in Appendix A of Report LS-08-20, and that the amendments raised by Councillor McPherson be included in the calendar. Chair McClick, may I ensure that the mover of this motion is in agreement with that?
I am Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
You're the mover. Okay. And then Ms. Kerflow's Further to that, there was a discussion that the mayor had brought forward as well. Should that be included in the motion you've just read, or?
To be quite honest with you, I can't include that in something that I don't know. Those come down from the province in terms of dates that are required in terms of the election and what that looks like. I don't have that answer at the time.
Okay. Mary Easton, you have your hand up.
Mr. Chairman, I put my hand up because I wanted to make sure that if Councillor McPherson's suggestion didn't go forward, that I would attempt a friendly amendment to include the Budget Review Committee of the Whole on this document. But it sounds like it's safe. Is that correct through you to Madam Clerk?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we're going to move forward with this vote. There were councillors that voted on the motion prior to that amendment. Do we need to re-vote this?
Yeah, there was only one that I called, and that was Councillor Brunet, so I'll call it again. Councillor Brunet?
Perfect.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Councillor Miklik?
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva?
Yes.
Councillor Reimer?
No.
Councillor Rajima?
Yes.
Councillor Russell?
Yes.
Councillor Timmers?
Yes.
Mayor Easton?
Yes.
And that carries.
Okay, we're going to move on to confidential items. We will now consider item 7.3 and confidential items. Before I read the motion and we motion to move into closed, I would like to explain what will happen for those watching this electronic meeting. First, there will be a closed session statement that the clerk will go through for all of us council and staff that will be attending the closed session. Once that is completed, we will move on with the motion to move into closed. The clerk will be turning off the live webcast during the closed portion of the meeting. Once we have completed the closed portion of the meeting, we will resume with the live webcast and carry on with the public portion of the meeting. And we'll read the motions in public session. I will ask the clerk to conduct the closed session statement for all of council and others attending the closed session.
Before we begin the closed session, all members are reminded that any discussions in closed are to remain confidential as per our procedural bylaw and code of conduct for the Council of the Town of Lincoln. Before we begin, I need each member that is attending electronically to confirm the following: that you understand that matters are to remain confidential, and confirm that no one else is present with you, and confirm that no one can hear this closed session, and confirm that you're not using any electronic devices other than your tablet, computer, telephone for the video conferencing, and confirm that you are not recording a portion of this meeting. If you acknowledge all of the above, please reply with "I understand," confirm to all of the statements as I read your name aloud. Mayor Easton.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Rajima.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Russell.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Brunet.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Pachariva.
I understand and confirm to all the statements.
Councillor McPherson.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Miklik.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Timmers.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Reimer.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Our CIO, Mike Kirkopoulos.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Our CEO of the Lincoln Public Library.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Our Finance Treasurer, Terry Trewalla.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
And Director of Economic Development and Communications, Paul Deaney.
I understand and confirm to all the statements.
Our Legislative and Committee Coordinator, Aaron Plant.
I understand and confirm all the statements.
And myself, I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I have a motion moved by Councillor Reimer. Under Section 239 of the Municipal Act, notice is hereby given that council adjourn to closed session in order to address item 7.3 as follows. Pursuant to the Municipal Act, Section 239 2-B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or board employees as it pertains to confidential report AD-10-20 regarding the Lincoln Public Library Board. Now ask our clerk to call out the vote.
Thank you. So Councillor Reimer is moved by Councillor Reimer. My apologies. Councillor Brunet.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklick.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Councillor Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Yes.
And that carries.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please proceed with the technical requirements to move into closed session.
Thank you.